We've seen the dollar continue to ratchet up day after day after day, and Bitcoin was just going sideways. So you could actually say, okay, Bitcoin was holding up. But I look at today's up move in the dollar as potentially the straw that broke the camel's back with Bitcoin. It's just so much pressure from a rising dollar and risk assets. I mean, we've seen the stock market rolling over, and Bitcoin for the last 10 days or so has just gone sideways. So it was almost inevitable if the dollar was going to keep going up, that at some point we were going to break down here. And you can see a nasty red candle here. Now, we do have potential support coming in around 17.5. That's going to be a big level. That's the June low. But my guess is that could be where we're headed at this point. But again, I was optimistic the last few days, looking at Bitcoin holding up and holding up for multiple days. There's a chance of a flush. And I think the key here is understanding there's a few different things that are mixing. Now, if we take out the 17.5-ish low here, there's not a lot of support until you get down to 13 to 12,000, which is my high-end target for Bitcoin. And the kicker here is we have to remember there's still 150,000 Bitcoin, I think, from Mt. Gox that could be unloaded at any one time. That's a lot of Bitcoin, especially when you're at these lower prices for pressure. In addition, I think you have to be very aware that at some point we're going to get news from the judge in the Ripple case. How is Gary Gensler going to say that, all these other coins are securities? What rules do they have to kind of abide by? And I think all of these combined with a strong dollar leave Bitcoin and other cryptos very vulnerable to kind of one of those bigger quick flushes that could take us down to that level. So I do think that level is a huge bounce opportunity. I don't know if we'll get there before we get down to, we get the Fed coming in here in late September, but I think it is a possibility. So I think there's still that potential that you could see some upside in Ethereum in the near term. And interestingly enough, the chart has a potential breakout here just above this downsloping trend line. So you can see that and by the way, this is really interesting because what we've seen in Bitcoin is that the low from basically 10 days ago was already breached. But you can clearly see that Ethereum has actually moved above this trend line and is well off of these lows. So to me, I look at that as a short-term relative strength indicator versus Bitcoin specifically. So I think that, again, there's a lot of hype. I think what Ethereum is doing is awesome. I think it's the right move here. And I think ultimately that in the near term, you could see some price pressure to the upside, maybe even retesting the near highs here of 2,000 on Ethereum. But again, I would just caution and say that depending on the regulation we find out about, that would be a concern. That would be a risk factor that you'd want to be a little careful over the next multiple months holding on to a ton of Ethereum. I actually do think there's a decent chance of it. I mean, if you look at the permeation in crypto of Ethereum and how many things are built on it, I mean, it's essentially the Apple of crypto. Now, I think you look at Bitcoin, and to me, I'm like, okay, Bitcoin is gold, and now Apple or Microsoft would be Ethereum. And I do think there's a lot of upside here down the line. So I am optimistic that it does have a shot of it. And one of the things I've been paying attention to on the chart is, number one, the chart of Polygon has had a big move up off of the lows and is actually going sideways, creating somewhat of a bullish channel here. So as long as you hold this lower end around 74 cents or so, to me, this is a very interesting potential bullish consolidation pattern for maybe a breakout. Breakout target would be about $1.35 here, which would retest these low pivots. But again, I think that, again, you're seeing a lot of excitement around it. I would want to see, once the excitement kind of goes away or starts to fade, do these things hold up, and just follow the technical lines. As long as it's within this range or above here, it's good to go. If it breaks that 74-cent level, then you want to be very, very careful. During bad periods in crypto, halting of trading and not allowing money to be taken out, that does create this kind of question mark. But I think that it also gives us an opportunity to say, okay, well, then the rally could come in if it goes smoothly. Let's say all of these things get opened back up, and then everyone says, okay, it's done, it's in there. I wasn't able to buy prior. Everything went smoothly. There's your buying opportunity. There's your big spike. I think the merge going smoothly can create more downside in Bitcoin, or Bitcoin downside can occur. And then I think that Ethereum can retrace maybe back to a double bottom. It has a small chance of holding that, but I do think that this is now potentially something that can help Ethereum hold up better than Bitcoin. So I'd be in the camp of thinking that, we're so far off that double bottom, which was around $880 on Ethereum. I think that it's very possible that could be when Bitcoin hits 12 to 13,000, that could be where Ethereum goes back to. I honestly don't think the lows are in yet on Bitcoin. I still think 12, 13,000 at minimum, that's where we're headed, just because of the macro structure and all the other issues out there. But I think that, again, you'll see what we usually see is that the final flush will be a quick drop, but then you'll get a little bounce and a lot of sideways chop where you see bulls and bears kind of fighting it out. People say, oh, Bitcoin's not going to be anything. Oh, and then you have other people saying Bitcoin's a great buy here. And you could see that, by the way, back in 2018. We saw a long period of just sideways chop before the next bull market started up. So I kind of expect the same thing. If you look back at 2009, you did see kind of a consistent grind higher, but it wasn't like a shooting star right back to the upside.
Interesting.
My guess is if we get down to 12,000 on Bitcoin, Ethereum probably gets back towards that 800 to 900 lows. One thing to keep in mind is that's actually bullish for Ethereum, right? I mean, if you have Bitcoin dropping, 50% more from where it was, and then you have Ethereum only retesting its double bottom, that's actually very bullish for Ethereum.
Every time. Anyway.
I got this new Bitcoin shirt, and when I finally think Bitcoin has bottomed, I'm going to wear it on your program. And
bam.